Hello students and anyone else who drops into my channel to see what's going on. Just want to tell you a little story about something that happened just about an hour ago. I was at my local mall and they were having one of those days where they have the tables out and everyone is kind of sitting around and selling stuff in the hallway and things like that. There was a place called Animatch, and that's a place where they adopt dogs. So they had a table out there, and they also had another table by another organization which has nothing to do with animals but with helping people. So this is an organization that collects money for different types of organizations such as the mentally handicapped and Big Brothers and Big Sisters. You get the idea. So on the table they were selling these fruit cakes, you know, the kind that you get at Christmas that are kind of hard and heavy. And they were raising money in that way. So I started a conversation with two of the gentlemen there. They were both retired. One said, I think he was close to 80. Maybe he said even 82. I can't remember exactly, I'm sorry. But the other one looked like he was maybe 60 years old, something like that. And I started to discuss with them the ingredients of the cakes that they were selling, the sort of fruit cake, you know, the kind that has all the raisins and all the colors and is super heavy. And I mentioned that it said that they had eggs in the recipe. And did these gentlemen know what happens in the cycle of violence that has to do with the egg industry? And it turned out that they really had no idea what happens.
The egg industry is just a cycle of misery. They lie to you endlessly. Don't buy eggs, walk away. Go to egg-truth.com today.
So I explained to them about the baby boy chicks and how they are murdered and macerated at just 1 day old, because they will never be able to lay eggs and they're considered to be useless in the industry. And I explained how this is why we have so many chickens and there are hardly any roosters around. So, of course, anytime that somebody starts to hear an animal rights activist talk, you can see in their body language that they're kind of like tensed up a little bit, kind of taking like mini steps backwards, sort of trying to back away out of the conversation without even being aware that their physical body is tensing up. As an animal rights activist, I've seen this many times, and so you start to learn to read the body language of people. And so you guys might be wondering why it is sometimes that I'm so tough on certain people and then so lenient on others. And it all comes down to the 100 clicks. It takes 100 clicks to become vegan. You have to get the message into your head to understand that you will not drop dead if you become vegan. You have to understand that it is healthy, that it is good for the environment, and you're going to be fine, that plants have protein and all of that. And then you also have to understand that the animals suffer a lot, that they are literally living through a holocaust right now. And that is exactly what it is, and that is why I use those words. It's a holocaust. They suffer from being raped. They are tortured because they are kept in confined conditions for their entire lives. When it comes to chickens and pigs and cows, often it's just really unacceptable. So I look into the eyes of the people that I'm talking to and I try to sum them up. So if it seems like, no matter what their age, if they are even older like these gentlemen and they look kind of shocked, like they're almost in disbelief, I can't really get angry with them. I can't get mad at them and say, why the fuck aren't you vegan yet? Because they just don't know yet. It's just sort of near the beginning of their clicks. They haven't had a chance to get 100 clicks yet. Or at least I try to err on the side of caution when it comes to a conversation like that. Other people, such as Sniper Wolf or Gordon Ramsay, who have seen many of my videos where I explain everything, where they have seen what happens to the factory farmed animals and also what it does to human health and what it does to the environment, who just don't give a shit after that, Those people, they get the full-on attack because they are displaying how cruel they are. Other people are more naive and more innocent, and even if they might be older, like these two gentlemen, I give them the benefit of the doubt. So one of these gentlemen said that he had a son who was vegan. So this already, at this point, I thought, okay, well, wait a second here. If your son is actually vegan, then you know what's going on. So these gentlemen are actually also volunteering at something which we have every year here, which is called a rib fest. So they literally sell the ribs of animals in order to raise money to help humans. A rib fest, all kinds of body parts are put down on barbecues, these animals who suffered greatly, in order to do a supposed good thing. So I tried to plant the idea that we should maybe not be having rib fests, that we should gradually start to integrate this idea of having a, wait for it, a tofu fest. And that's how I said it to these gentlemen. I paused for a second and I said, you know, it's gonna sound weird at first, but just bear with me. There are thousands of delicious ways to cook tofu, and tofu didn't scream because tofu doesn't have a brain or a nervous system and can't feel pain. So when this gentleman, the younger one of the two, said to me that his son was vegan, I wondered immediately, well, is he actually vegan, or is he one of these people who says they're vegan, but then just eats all kinds of other things on the side and wears leather and so on? So I tried to quiz the gentleman, and just because I was very curious. He said his son was, I think, 28 years old. And he said, no, my son's vegan. And I said, like, what do you mean? Is he just like vegan because he likes to be healthy? He said, well, let me put it to you this way. He's coming over and I bought him a vegan cake for dinner. And he said that his son, when he tried to give him a leather belt one time, his son refused, saying he didn't want to wear leather. So I thought to myself, okay, this guy sounds like he is the real deal. And this gentleman said that it was him and his wife, so his son and his daughter-in-law, who were both ethical vegans. And so I thought to myself, well, this guy has already received a bunch of clicks. I mean, it's not like he doesn't know that leather comes from an animal who screamed, whose skin was ripped off of them, who got torn away from his or her family. And so I asked him, I said, does your son ever talk to you about veganism? Does your son ever tell you what happens in the meat industry, the dairy industry, the egg industry? And he said, well, you know, sort of, but not that much. So I wondered to myself, why is it that this son doesn't make sure that his dad knows everything? So either two things are happening. Either the son is really not that much vegan and just kind of like, you know, just sort of coasting by, not buying a leather belt, but, you know, maybe once in a while he cheats or whatever, or his heart is not in it as much as it should be. Or the dad is kind of fibbing, let's say. Another thing, though, a third choice would be that this son has already tried to reach his dad. He's told him about the meat. He's told him about the eggs. He's told him about the dairy. He's told him everything. And the dad did one of these like, la, 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 it's not really happening. La, 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 it's not really happening. I hope my son is in some crazy phase. And then realizing, wait a second, my son is not in a crazy phase. And now he's married to a vegan. So I don't know what's going on, but I found it really interesting. And I tried to encourage this dad. I said, you must be really proud of your son. And he said, well, I'm proud of my kids no matter what they do. I said, really? So you're proud of your son? If he went back to herding animals, would you be proud of him? Well, you know, if that's his choice. I said, would you be proud of your son if he hurt humans? And he took a moment and said, well, but that's breaking the law. So I said, so is that all that matters to you? Is the actual law not what is morally the right thing to do? And he kind of paused for a bit and sort of did the old, you know, shifty leg thing and kind of rotated a bit. Sort of started to walk almost like parallel to me, so I'd have to do one of these. Like, anyway, there was the other gentleman there who said, who started asking questions like, do you know how eggs get 2 yolks in them? Try to change the subject, as if he thinks the subject is actual eggs. He's not a stupid man. I think he knows that the subject is the ethics of murdering animals. I think he knows. But this is what people do. They're really afraid to talk about what's going on. They're just sort of hoping the conversation isn't happening, trying to wiggle out of it. And my job in that case is to try to maintain a dialogue with people without making them feel worse than they need to. So what I mean by that is that we need to apply the right amount of pressure to make them get a click. We cannot just let them off the hook. So when this older gentleman said, well, I've lived my whole life and I've been volunteering for this organization and I'm a good guy and, you know, this is my life. I said, well, your legacy is going to be that you raised money for organizations while abusing animals to do so. That's your legacy. But I said immediately after, because I don't want to make him feel bad, I said, but you can change. Your legacy can be that when you found out how the animals are treated, you became vegan. And of course he's like, but I like steak. And I said, I used to eat animals too. It's not about whether you like steak or not. It's about doing the right thing. And then he starts to tell me about, well, you know, I like pizza with spinach actually. And I'm like, great. So then I try to focus on the positive and I tell them about the restaurant that sells a vegan pizza down the road. And so, you know, it's kind of like a dance. It really is. Doing animal rights activism also is a challenge because we too are humans. You know, we have to think on our feet. There's always interruptions. There's always spontaneous statements that we have to adjust to. I've been vegan now for almost, I think it's 6.5 years, or I don't know if it's over 6.5 years. Anyway, definitely over 6 years. And you know, we're human. We have our own moods. We have our own frustrations. When we see a ton of dead animals, we see in grocery stores being served on tables, like with this cake that was being sold that had egg in it, with a poster that says, you know, we're having a rib fest to raise money for the children, for big brothers and big sisters, and you just kind of want to pull your hair out, like, because you just can't believe that you have to repeat yourself so many times. But at the same time, you have some compassion because you realize these poor guys just have no idea what's going on. So anyway, I told the other guy who has a 28-year-old son, I said, you know, when you see your son, give your son a giant hug from me and just say, I am really proud of him. And, you know, good job being vegan and good job continuing. And I said to the dad, I said, you know, maybe you could learn something from your son. Because even though he might not be talking to you about what's going on, he might be actually really hurt that you still pay for animals to suffer when he's not there. You know, it's not just about the meal when he comes over to your house. It's about all the meals in between. You know, here's your son trying desperately to save animals from drowning and you're throwing them back in to the water. That's what it feels like when you're a vegan, an ethical vegan, and your family members are continuing this cycle of cruelty. So I said, you know, maybe your son is just not really telling you what he really feels. And so maybe it will be cool for you to think about what I'm saying, and I hope you do, and, you know, consider trying to maneuver this rib fest into becoming a tofu fest. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, because I know there's a lot of committees and there's people involved and there's vegan phobia and all the rest of it, you know, money being injected by the meat industry and corruption, whatever. But it's a start. So that's my story for today. Thanks for listening. If you like this channel and if you have your own stories, you know, write your comments below. Let me know what are your experiences in the world. Have you ever been to a rib fest? Did you ever consider that maybe a rib fest should be a tofu fest? When you go places, do you ask for vegan options? And, you know, subscribe to this channel, press the notification bell, and help me get the animals out of hell. Thank you so much. Coming up on screen are going to be a bunch of other videos. Please click on them. Be curious. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. Sometimes I'm ranting and raving. Sometimes I'm overacting. And other times I'm actually crying because I'm seeing some real suffering. I mean, I'm just a regular person here, just like you, except I became vegan and I felt like I wanted to undo the harm that I'd done in the past. So I'm just trying different things on my YouTube channel and on my TikTok channel. By the way, if you haven't been to my TikTok channel, right now I have about 560,000 subscribers, and my address there is Music by That Vegan Teacher. Music by That Vegan Teacher. I also have another account which has about 46,000, and that one is called Songs by That Vegan Teacher. Songs by That Vegan Teacher. So thanks so much, guys, for being here. Thanks for listening. I'll see y'all in the next video.